There's a whole world women rarely talk about. Not because they want to hide it, but because they don't feel safe enough to show it. In this video, we're diving deep into the quiet truths, what women hide from men, and how Stoic wisdom can help us understand it all. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more Stoic insights that help you think clearly, love deeply, and live wisely. Let's begin. Section 1. Emotional vulnerabilities. Let's start with one of the most hidden and fragile parts of a woman's life, her emotional world. Now, society often tells women that it's okay to show emotion, but only in specific ways. She can cry during a sad movie. She can laugh at a friend's joke. But when it comes to admitting real pain, like saying, "I feel alone," or "I don't feel seen in this relationship," that's where the silence begins. You see, many women have learned over time that being too open about their emotions can backfire. Maybe in the past, she opened up and someone dismissed her. Or worse, used her vulnerability as ammunition against her later. So now, even when something is hurting her deeply, she might not tell you. Instead, she'll put on a smile. She'll act like everything is fine. But inside, she might be struggling. Feeling overwhelmed. Questioning herself. Feeling invisible. Why doesn't she just say something? Because sometimes she's afraid of being a burden. She worries you'll think she's too much or too emotional. Maybe she thinks you won't understand, or that you'll pull away if she opens up. This fear of emotional rejection is very real. It's shaped by her past, by childhood wounds, failed relationships, moments where she wasn't heard or valued. The philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this is especially true here. A woman may imagine that if she speaks up, you'll withdraw, or judge her, or even stop caring. So to protect herself, she keeps it all inside. Think about the woman who silently worries about how her body looks, never saying it out loud, but constantly comparing herself in her head. Or the mother who feels like she's not doing enough, even though she's exhausted every day, but still, she puts on a brave face and keeps going like nothing's wrong. What does she do with all those feelings? Sometimes she writes them in a journal. Sometimes she cries alone in the shower. Sometimes she just stays quiet, hoping the feeling will pass. She wears her strength like armor. But even the strongest armor gets heavy. Here's where Stoic wisdom gives us insight. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." But what's interesting is that many women live the opposite. They are too tolerant with others, putting everyone else's needs before their own. And they're overly strict with themselves, constantly criticizing, constantly second-guessing. So what can we do with this knowledge? It's not about fixing her. It's not about rushing in to solve her problems. It's about being a calm and supportive presence. Offering patience instead of pressure. Listening instead of judging. Just being there, genuinely, without conditions. Because when a woman feels safe, when she knows she won't be judged or dismissed, she begins to open up. And in that moment, when she lets you in, you're not just seeing her emotions. You're witnessing her courage. Section 2. Social pressures and expectations. From the time she's a little girl, a woman begins to receive quiet, persistent messages about who she's supposed to be. She's told, directly or subtly, that she should always be kind, even when people treat her unfairly. That she should be nurturing, taking care of others, even if her own needs are ignored. She's expected to be attractive, but not show too much confidence in her appearance, or she'll be called vain. She should be ambitious and driven, but not so much that it threatens a man's ego. She should be strong, but not so strong that she seems unfeeling. These expectations don't come all at once. They come through comments, media images, school environments, family traditions. Over time, they form an invisible script that many women feel pressured to follow. So what happens? She starts hiding the parts of herself that don't fit into that script. Let's say she's incredibly smart, but on a date, she might avoid talking about her accomplishments, worried that her success could make the man feel insecure. Or imagine a woman at work who is utterly exhausted, mentally and physically, but she hides it behind a smile because she doesn't want to be seen as too emotional or unable to handle pressure. Here's another real example. Think of a woman who has all the skills and leadership qualities to lead a team. But in meetings, she starts to soften her voice, downplay her confidence, and second-guess her assertiveness. Why? Because she's learned that speaking too directly could get her labeled as bossy or difficult. These pressures aren't always shouted at her. They're not printed on signs. They're more subtle, more silent, but just as powerful. And over time, they cause many women to hide their full selves, to shrink, to silence their true thoughts, feelings, and needs, not because they want to lie, but because they're trying to survive in a world that constantly critiques how a woman behaves. From a Stoic point of view, this is where awareness matters. Epictetus once said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." And where do those opinions come from? Often, from the culture around us. From family, society, and the media. So a woman may not be hiding herself out of deceit, but out of conditioning. Out of the belief that showing her true self will lead to rejection, criticism, or loneliness. If you understand this as a man, you stop taking her masking personally. You begin to realize, it's not about you. It's about the world she's had to navigate. And instead of seeing her guardedness as a wall, see it for what it really is, armor. Not because she wants to keep you out, but because she wants to feel safe letting you in. Section 3, Personal Ambitions and Dreams, minute 33 to 48. Let's talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly important, a woman's personal ambitions and dreams. Now, this might surprise you, but one of the most common things a woman hides in a relationship is her desire for more. More growth, more freedom, more purpose. Not because she's ungrateful or dissatisfied, but because there's a deeper part of her that longs to become something beyond just her roles as a partner, a mother, a daughter, or a friend. You see, many women grow up with silent expectations placed on them. Be nurturing. Be supportive. Be the glue that holds everything together. And somewhere along the way, those dreams she once had, to start a business, write a book, move to another country, or chase a wild and exciting vision, begin to get pushed aside. Not because she stops wanting them, but because she's not sure there's room for them anymore. Sometimes, she stays quiet about what she truly wants because she's afraid you might not support her. Or worse, that you might not even care. Maybe she once shared an idea with someone who laughed it off. Maybe someone told her, "Now's not the time," or "That's not practical." So over time, she learned to keep those dreams locked away. Safe. Hidden. Picture this, a woman is in a committed relationship. She loves her partner. But deep inside, there's a dream she's been nursing quietly, the desire to launch her own brand, to create something meaningful, to take a leap of faith. But she's afraid that chasing it might cause tension. What if her partner thinks she's being selfish? What if he sees her ambition as a threat to their comfort or stability? Or imagine a young woman who dreams of moving abroad, starting fresh in a new city, experiencing life differently. But her family expects her to stay close, settle down, follow the traditional path. So she buries that dream, smiles politely, and says nothing. The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, whatever thoughts a person constantly carries, especially those unspoken ones, begin to shape their entire inner world. So when a woman hides her ambitions, when she silences those dreams that light up her soul, something in her slowly dims. She might still show up for everyone. She might still smile and laugh. But deep down, she's not fully alive. She's not unfolding into her true potential. And here's what's powerful: you, as a man, have the chance to change that. Not by giving her permission, she doesn't need that. But by creating a space where she feels safe enough to share. Where she knows her ambitions won't be judged, dismissed, or feared. True connection means encouraging each other's growth, not just emotionally, but purposefully. So if you ever sense there's more to her than what she's showing you, there probably is. Ask about her dreams. Listen without interrupting. Let her speak them into existence without trying to solve or control. Because when a woman feels that you see her, not just for who she is, but for who she wants to become, she doesn't have to hide anymore. And when that happens, when a woman feels free to dream aloud, something incredible happens in the relationship. She starts to bloom. And you don't just get a partner. You get a woman who's alive, fulfilled, and deeply connected, not only to you, but to herself. That is what love looks like when it makes room for both souls to grow. Section 4. Navigating relationships and intimacy. Let's talk about one of the most sensitive and misunderstood areas in any relationship: intimacy. And we're not just talking about physical closeness. We're talking about emotional vulnerability, honesty, and the deep fear that often lies just beneath the surface. You see, many women carry quiet fears when it comes to love. These fears aren't always spoken out loud, but they're very real. Some women are afraid of being abandoned, left behind after giving their hearts fully. Others worry they're not good enough. Not pretty enough, not interesting enough, not low maintenance enough. And then there's the fear of being too much, too emotional, too intense, too honest. So what does she do? She hides it. She might pretend not to care when you start pulling away, even though inside, she feels like she's losing you. She might act like she's okay with surface-level connection, even though she deeply craves emotional closeness. She might stay silent when something you said or did crosses a boundary, because she doesn't want to come off as needy, dramatic, or overly sensitive. This silence doesn't mean she doesn't care. Quite the opposite. She stays quiet because she cares, and she's afraid that speaking up might cost her the relationship. Let me give you a real example to paint the picture. Imagine a woman who was once cheated on. That betrayal cut deep. Now, in a new relationship, she starts feeling jealous. Not because she doesn't trust you, but because that wound from the past is still healing. But instead of telling you how she feels, she keeps it in. She doesn't want you to label her as insecure. So she smiles, stays quiet, and pretends everything's fine, while inside, she's at war with herself. Or take another example. A woman might long for deeper emotional intimacy, conversations that go beyond the surface, connection that feels soulful. But if she senses you're not comfortable going there, she might downplay her needs. She'll act like casual is fine. She'll pretend shallow is enough. All to avoid being seen as too much or too emotional. Now, from a Stoic perspective, this is where we as men have an opportunity to grow. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." So ask yourself, who do you want to be in the relationship? If your answer is a grounded, steady, trustworthy man, then that means becoming someone who can handle her truth. Someone who doesn't panic when she opens up. Someone who doesn't pull away when she gets emotional. Because here's the truth, she's constantly evaluating how safe it is to be her full self around you. She's asking herself silently, can I be honest with him? Will he judge me? Can he handle me at my most real and raw? And if your presence feels like a safe place, if you meet her emotions with calm instead of criticism, curiosity instead of fear, she'll stop hiding. She won't need to wear that emotional armor anymore. So don't try to control her feelings. Try to understand them. Don't rush her to open up. Give her the patience and peace that invites it. Because when you become the calm in her emotional storm, when you become the man who doesn't flinch when she reveals her deepest fears, something powerful happens. She begins to trust. She begins to share. And the wall between you begins to fall. That's the beginning of real intimacy, not forced, not fake, but honest, mutual, and deeply human. Section 5. The influence of past experiences. Everyone carries emotional scars. But not all scars are visible. And a woman may carry wounds you'll never see, because she's learned to hide them well. These wounds come from her past, heartbreaks, broken trust, betrayal, abuse, or deep disappointments that left her questioning her worth. Some of these experiences may have happened in relationships. Others go back to childhood. And many of them, she's never spoken about, not even to the people closest to her. You might look at her and see strength. You might hear her laugh and assume everything's okay. But inside, she could be carrying memories that still hurt. And she hides them, not because she's dishonest, but because she's protecting herself. Sometimes, she's afraid that if you knew the whole story, you might look at her differently. She fears judgment. Or worse, she fears you'll leave. Other times, she simply hasn't healed yet. Talking about the past can reopen wounds. It can feel unsafe. And if she's been met with rejection or indifference before, she might have learned to stay silent to survive. There are women who've been abused, emotionally, physically, or mentally. Some who made mistakes they regret and still carry the shame. Others might have grown up in homes that lacked love, stability, or validation, and now they pretend those experiences didn't affect them, but they did. She may not say any of this out loud. But her silence often speaks louder than words. Here's where Stoicism offers us a powerful perspective. The Stoics believed in something called amor fati, the love of fate. It means accepting everything that has happened to us as part of our story. Not to run from it, not to be defined by it, but to understand it and grow from it. But let's be honest, reaching that level of peace takes time. It takes emotional maturity. And most importantly, it takes a sense of safety. That's why Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful Stoic philosophers, said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is your invitation, not to interrogate her past, not to demand explanations, but to become a safe place. A man of consistency. Of calm. Of character. Because healing is never forced. It's never demanded. It only happens when someone feels truly seen, heard, and safe. When she knows you won't walk away. When she trusts that you won't use her truth against her. And when she feels that she's with a man who doesn't just tolerate her story, but honors it. That's when the walls come down. That's when she starts to let you in. So remember, if she hides her past, don't take it personally. Understand that it's not about you. It's about the pain she's carried, and whether the world has ever given her a reason to trust again. Be that reason. Be the man who listens without judgment. Be the calm in her storm. Because when you do that, you don't just help her heal. You become part of the healing itself. Section 6. The role of Stoicism in understanding these hidden aspects. Let's now explore how Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of inner strength, wisdom, and emotional discipline, can help us better understand the things a woman often hides. First, Stoicism reminds us of a powerful truth: every person has an inner world as rich and complicated as our own. Just because someone looks calm, happy, or collected on the outside doesn't mean that's the full story. Behind her smile, there might be stress. Behind her silence, there might be sadness. Behind her strength, there might be struggle. Too often, we forget that we are not the center of anyone else's universe. And that makes it easy to overlook the quiet, hidden battles a woman may be fighting, especially if she doesn't speak about them out loud. This is where Stoic principles become incredibly useful. Stoicism teaches us 4 powerful tools for understanding and connecting with someone, especially when they're not fully opening up. First, it gives us patience. Patience to wait, not push, for truth. Sometimes, when a woman is quiet or distant, she's not trying to hide something malicious. She may just need time. Stoicism reminds us that forcing someone to open up only pushes them further away. Second, it gives us clarity. Clarity helps us to avoid jumping to conclusions or reacting emotionally to things that are only happening on the surface. Maybe she didn't respond to your text right away. Maybe she seemed off during a conversation. Clarity allows us to pause and ask, is this about me, or is she going through something I don't know about yet? Third, Stoicism helps us develop empathy. Not the emotional kind that overwhelms us, but the grounded, wise kind. Empathy that listens for what isn't said. That notices her subtle shifts. That respects the unspoken weight she might be carrying. And fourth, it gives us resilience. Resilience not to take things personally when she seems distant, guarded, or moody. Remember, everyone has wounds they don't show. A Stoic man doesn't crumble because someone else isn't immediately transparent. He understands that trust and truth often come slowly. There's a beautiful quote from Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers. He said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This means that sometimes, the greatest gift we can offer someone isn't advice. It isn't solutions. It isn't even words. It's simply the act of listening, really listening. The more grounded and emotionally steady you are, the more emotionally safe she will feel around you. When she senses that you won't judge her, interrupt her, or panic at her truth, she begins to open up. Because now she knows you're not just a man who reacts, you're a man who understands. Stoicism also teaches us to stay centered, even when emotions swirl around us, whether it's hers or ours. When things feel confusing or tense, you ask yourself one of the core Stoic questions. What part of this situation can I actually control? And most of the time, the answer isn't about her behavior. It's about your response to her behavior. You can't control when she opens up. You can't control how she processes her emotions. But you can control your tone, your patience, your attitude, and your energy. So rather than rushing to solve her mystery or demanding answers, take the Stoic approach. Become a student of her silence. Notice what she's not saying, /n, listen closely when she says, "I'm fine," because maybe she's not. Hear the meaning behind her sighs, her pauses, her tired voice. And instead of offering pressure, give her presence. Instead of reacting with suspicion, offer her space. Instead of jumping to solve everything, practice stillness. Let her feel that she doesn't need to perform or explain herself just to be accepted. In relationships, and in life, Stoicism isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming so centered, so calm, and so wise that you can hold space for others without falling apart yourself. That kind of man is rare. And that kind of man is exactly who she'll trust when she's ready to stop hiding. Conclusion. Summarizing insights and encouraging reflection. So, what does a woman hide from men? She hides her fears, her shame, her hopes, her history, her hurt, her hunger for more. Not because she wants to deceive, but because she's human. And like all of us, she seeks to be seen without judgment. Heard without interruption. Loved without condition. Stoicism doesn't tell us to fix others. It tells us to understand them. To accept reality as it is, and respond with virtue. So ask yourself, can I be the kind of man who holds space for the unspoken? Can I meet her not with pride, but with patience? Can I love her not for who I want her to be, but for who she truly is? Because when a woman feels safe enough to not hide, you see the full glory of her humanity. And that is where real connection begins. Thank you for watching. If this touched something in you, share it. Reflect on it. And keep walking the Stoic path with grace, presence, and strength. Until next time, stay grounded.